welcome to another episode on the Bearfoot Miniatures channel. And today we're going to be going over the Traitor Rites of War. And are they not crap? So I'm joined today by Connor and James, who have been doing these Rites of War videos with us. And yeah, should we just delve right in? Or do you want to kick off with your credentials, James? Do you want to celebrate your wins?
No, I'm good.
We'll keep them a secret then. So
happy.
Secret wins.
I'll post them in the WhatsApp group now.
So yeah, we are going to start off with the Emperor's Children Rites of War, being the first ones in the book, and just progress from there. So the first one we get to is the Maraskara. So effectively this gives you 4 units which are Elite's troops, fast attack, in a detachment with this Rite of War, and that do not include any models with heavy, slow bombardments, may be granted outflank. All the controlling players' models that are Emperor's Children deployed on the battlefield may add +1 to movement until you choose to bring in your outflankers, essentially. Or include until you bring in reserves, that because it includes deep strike and subterranean assault. And you don't make any reserves rolls for any units assigned to flanking assaults or subterranean, but you do for deep strikes. And instead, they deploy on the battlefield at the start of any of the turns after the first with no reserves rolls. So downsides to this may not include models with movement characteristic 0. So yet again, the tarantula batteries are out. I know it's a big ask.
What is the point in playing Heresy?
Yeah, and you get a unit tax of Legion Champion, Cataphracti, or Centurion or Champion, basically.
Or Phoenix Warder.
Or Phoenix Warder, yeah, the special HQ. Now, you can't have more than half your models in your army assigned to a special arrival method. And that's all the Rite of War does, really. So, James, yeah, I think you've got none. You call my feelings of it being bad ridiculous. Why are my feelings of this being bad ridiculous?
No, you're completely right. It's quite bad.
Right.
So, like the idea behind this is you chuck a few dreadnoughts into outflank, come on behind your opponent and like mess them up with this like outflanking force of stuff that comes on when you want it to come on. Really scary, all that good stuff. The downside is flanking assaults. You put a marker down, your opponent knows what it's going to be. I did flanking assault 2 times last weekend at Warhammer World, and both times my opponent just strung out a tactical squad across the marker so I couldn't deploy them, and they just died at the end of the game.
Oh, so they actually did the classic like line in the board tactic.
Yeah, creep blocking. Yeah, so you just do that to this outflanking marker, and half your army's dead.
Do you know? Yeah. Do you know what the outflank side? I don't mind the placing the marker, but it should be either side of the board.
It can be anywhere. It can be behind on their board edge.
No. So I mean, to stop people just doing attack squad, like it's like. Obviously, before you used to roll, didn't you? And it was like it sort of decided. So you should have like more than one point that you can do it from, if that makes sense. So that way, or as an option. Do you get what I mean?
That's like, fixing flanking assault, isn't it? Like,
and I think that's what this boils down to, though, isn't it? It's a good Rite of War depending on whether the universal special rule that it's based on is good, and it's not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
because flanking assault would be cool.
Yeah, well, it was always a cool one in First Ed. It was like pretty like core for Emperor's Children whenever that one person in the country played them. It's because flanking assault's got a host of problems, hasn't it? Like between interceptor from anywhere on the board, knowing where it's going to come on from, like
and just blocking it.
Yeah. So it's one that I think is actually like weirdly a bit of a downgrade from like just a standard force, just granting interceptor and free shooting phases to your opponent. And as you said, I imagine it was tactical squads in outflank.
Yeah. Well, it was just a tac squad, so they didn't die first turn, and they could potentially jump onto an objective like later on, but they couldn't. They just died turn 4 because my opponent just put a tactical squad where the marker was and strung it out, and then they all died. So that's cool.
Yeah,
that's all you need to do to this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like the idea of it. It sounds quite scary. Like there's turn 2. There's going to be dreadnoughts and Phoenix Terminators coming on behind you, and then it's like they're just stuck there. Yeah.
It sort of goes back to what we said before, isn't it? Concept's really good, just execution's very poor. So from a from a fluffy point of view, yes, it's quite cool, but it just doesn't work, does it? It doesn't work.
No.
Like we said. And do you know what? If you want to have that sort of assault, deep strike type thing, you might as well just take a drop-off list then.
Yeah, or something like that that's going to
do you know what I mean?
manipulate reserves better.
Yeah, it's better to run it along that sort of line or subterranean assault rather than the outflanking side of it, because the Rite of War doesn't add too much else.
Yeah, so
to your list.
At the risk of flogging a dead horse, shall we move on to Third Company Elite? Right. So Third Company Elite, we've got basically cacophony squads of troops, but they don't become line. Any unit composed entirely of models with Emperor's Children that is part of a detachment using this Rite of War may select a single surgical augment for 30 points. So that can be something like -1 to hit them in combat or a pinning attack across the unit. Those are the best two, I believe. And that's 30 points for that surgical augment. It's got to be traitors, and all models with the character unit subtype must have a surgical augment as part of an unit using this armory from Emperor's Children. So you've got to take an augment. That's your downside, and you've got to be traitor. Now, I think it's quite good because cacophony are quite good this edition, I would say. Like they're only 1 wound, but they're fearless.
Scary.
10. Yeah, a ton of
scary unit to face.
They're good anti-phalanx warder unit. Like they're a equivalent of a Volkite squad, really, but with better pinning.
Yeah, that's a succinct way of saying it.
Aren't they a stronger AP as well? Don't they have
AP
Rend
5,
or something?
Strength 6. No, they've got Gets Hot, so they'll kill themselves because they're only 1 wound models. But
I thought they
three
had something else.
3 shots, pinning, shell shot 1, deflagrate, Gets Hot, 36-inch range. It's a good way to move them out of the heavy support slots. You can still take your Sun Killers, which every Emperor's Children player will be taking. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It just suffers from that lack of line.
It's a good side grade.
Yeah.
It suffers from the lack of line in a sense, but then I think James has just hit the nail on the head with it. The intention is not necessarily the intention of the Rite of War is to free up your heavy support slots for other things.
Yeah.
So you're still going to take whatever your general troop choices are. It's just it allows that movement of. Because the way I find it is the heavy support slots, especially in this edition, are quite clustered. And whereas in the last edition there was, I don't know if there is anymore, but there used to be a few Rite of Wars where you could add like a heavy support slot effectively for some legions.
For the best legion, yeah.
Second best legion. You throw me off now. Like the rage has built. But that's what I mean. Like it's there's not a lot of that now. So there's a lot of
there's a lot of pressure
for the heavy support. Yeah.
So there's not like an alt force org chart. Iron Warriors lost their extra heavy support.
No.
There's nothing that really comes to mind for it. So yeah, I agree. Like you're still gonna have to worry about where your line choices are coming in. It's not to the level of like some of the especially loyalist ones that make other units line that you would want to have line, but like I think they're a good unit to have anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
let's say it's a decent side grade. You don't lose anything by taking this over another over not having a Rite of War.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a points cost in it, I suppose. But then, like you said,
characters are probably having that surgical augmentation anyway, aren't they?
Anyway, yeah. So.
Yeah, and it's because the surgical augments, this actually fixes it, I think, to 30 points a unit versus James, you've got the book out, haven't you?
Yeah.
Rather than being on a page. Will you just flick to the surgical augments bit? Because I think it might be a
20 points per character.
Or is it 2
usually.
points a model on a separate unit?
Can't see anything on units. It just says characters.
Oh, is it on the characters?
So
what this essentially will do is split your surgical augment across a unit. so it can't be taken out by sniping a character, which is then a good benefit.
A benefit as well.
Yeah, and
it's a necessary tax, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
No,
the augments, like you say, pretty decent, aren't they?
Yeah, like especially the -1 to hit one. Like if you can spread that over, say like I'm just going to say Palatine Blade squad. It splits it across that squad rather than the character getting sniped. So yeah, I think it's a benefit. Ever onwards. So on to Iron Warriors, where we get the Hammer of Olympia, Rite of War. This is page 178 for you, James, who's flicking through the book at home.
Rapidly flicking through the book.
Yeah,
I haven't got this page because I've burnt it.
So
it's fine. Most Iron Warriors players have as well.
Do you know what?
Mine's got a picture of Alexis Pollux on it. You know, the superior of the Marines.
Is he not over Perturabo's page? Just like put him on top of Perturabo at all times. So yeah, Hammer of Olympia. We've got basically any tactical squads swap their Fury of the Legion for Fury of Olympia, which means you can move and Fury, like getting +1 shot, with any shrapnel weapons, shrapnel pistols, but not shrapnel cannons or Gravis shrapnel cannons. You don't get it with bolt weapons as well, so actually you've got to take that reduced range from going from bolt to shrapnel. You can't stay with your bolter weapon. You also get the ability to re-roll all fail to hit rolls of a 1 with all shrapnel weapons, not just the bolters and pistols, which is quite good. Like getting a re-roll, good. And all Predator squadrons, Vindicator squadrons, Proteus carriers, Spartans can ignore the effects of Crew Shaken, which is actually quite handy when I bother to remember it rather than just completely forgetting it. Or getting bypassed because my tank's exploded. So, a detachment using this Rite of War must include a Warsmith or Perturabo, and you can't use any alternate deployment methods. Now, there is a hidden tax in there as well that we've alluded, or that I've already said, that's this: you've got to take the shrapnel weapons, and that's 2 points a model for every model that you want to benefit from this Rite of War.
It's expensive for what it is.
It racks up quite fast. Yes, you gain pinning, but I do find it's a big negative to take that 18-inch rapid fire range, or the 18-inch range that gives you a 9-inch rapid fire. Like, a lot of the time, my Fury of Olympia is just putting me back on the 2 shots I would have got with a rapid fire anyway. Or a surprising amount, at least. I don't get too many extra shots. It makes you be a bit more aggressive because it's close range, but I've tried for a long time now to get shrapnel weapons to work for me, including entire armies of pinning.
So I ran this a couple of times at the start of 2.0 with my Iron Warriors, and I was trying to leverage your tanks aren't crew shaken or stunned, but quickly found out that tanks are rubbish and they just die instead of being crew shaken and crew stunned, so I didn't really get a benefit from that, which upset me quite a bit. I am getting a bit higher on the Bolter Marines, the TAC Marines. I've seen a bit of work being done over the weekend with them.
Are we going like that, James? Are we just passing each other?
I mean, I'm still not taking more than 2 10-man tactical squads because that's what I have to take, because I've not built my despoilers yet. But yeah, it's the hidden tax makes it a slight downgrade in my opinion. Yeah. That's unfortunately. Because I really would like this to work. Because this is the best one. 1.0, this is the one that gave you your 4th heavy support choice and was just amazing.
So, one of the things that I'd say about it is, because I tend to just take shrapnel weapons anyway, and I'm not saying, like, shrapnel weapons are great in this, but I tend to take shrapnel weapons anyway just because it's the Iron Warriors' thing. Now, this is a really good Rite of War that I find to just, it's got no other stipulations than I got to have a Warsmith and no alternate deployment methods. I'm already happening to take shrapnel weapons because I just do. It's something that I can just throw in, not have to think about my army composition, really. Yeah. And I think that's a lot to be said for it, is it's just a benefit based on stipulations that I'm already doing as an Iron Warriors player.
I mean, if you're playing like you do, quite narratively, and taking those shrapnel weapons, it's all right.
Yeah.
I guess. Like the reroll to hit what rolls of 1 is, I like rerolls in this edition, so any reroll is a good reroll.
Any thoughts, Connor? You sat there smiling into himself.
Yeah, no. So weirdly enough, I was just thinking of, I just thought of an analogy, and I was like, this is going to be one of my wild left-wing analogies that doesn't really make sense, but it's like, you know when you play a strategy game and you go through like levels of strategy games and you like level up, so you like level 1 and you get whatever units, level 2, whatever units. The way this Rite of War is for me, it's like the best of level 1, but everyone's already gone to level 2 and level 3, so it kind of becomes redundant. So you're like, oh, I've got the best thing in level 1, it's really strong, and everyone's like, yeah, but I've got tanks now, like in like Company of Heroes or something, and you're like, right, okay, well, machine guns are going to do nothing anymore.
Your tanks don't get shaken. Well, I've got las cannons.
I've got las cannons out. Like, and it's, I think when we get to a point where I'm like that Centurion type thing comes into play again, where you're playing the smaller games, it's a good Rite of War for that. But like you said, I think the tax is a little bit too much on it. I've found with pinning's like good, but where it really comes into your own is when you've got the modifiers for your pinning. That's what it really, really comes into its own, and they just don't have it. And I think that is where you suffer. And I almost kind of want to say, like, why didn't they just allow it to be for your shrapnel cannons and for everything as well? Like, why not just gift it to you? Like,
like free. Get the free shrapnel.
Just give it, or something along those lines. I love the Fury bit, like you said. I love the Fury bit. I love being able to move and that, and with your smaller games. But yeah, fine. Shoot me with your tax squads, and then I'm just cool. I'll return fire, and we'll see how far that goes.
Well, do you know what's much better? I've found it's like you said, like the modifiers make pinning, and Iron Warriors just don't have it outside of nighttime, and potentially a fear bomb with a herald, which I've tried. It didn't work. And it just really bombed. But there is one thing better than pinning a unit, and that's just killing it. So when you and the unit that you really want to pin is usually leadership 9 or 10, and a lot of the time stubborn, or has just got a herald in. So I find myself like, for that extra 20 points a unit that I'm paying for my shrapnel bolters on Iron Warriors, once I've stacked that across an army, I can usually have just upgraded one of the units to have special weapons to like the tactical support squad. So yeah, I like the Rite. It's side grade or slight downgrade, as James said. Like I'm going to go with side grade just because I'm doing the shrapnel bolters anyway, and I'm just like, whether it's good or bad, I'm doing it.
Fair enough.
And yeah, and I think there is a lot to be said for just that side grade, which has no or very limited stipulations.
Just because you're lazy in your list writing and think of your Rite of Wars afterwards. And let's be honest, that's not a dig, that's just true. You write a list and then go, I haven't done the Rite of War, and I haven't done this. Whereas everyone else goes, this is my Rite of War, this is what my thing is. Let's write a list around that then.
Well, it's what I tend to like look at what type of things do I want to take? Do any Rites of War allow that? And then like on this, it's just like it just fits sometimes. And we'll get into why I don't write Rites of War, so armies around Rites of War, when we go into the Ironfire. And
this is the one that you kind of bullied people with in 1.0, I'm told.
Yeah. So it was basically you placed markers around the battlefield and became stubborn and fearless based on the markers, and your artillery, when it was good, didn't scatter or scatter.
So what does it do now then, Max?
So now Arquiters can be used as troops.
Freeze up those heavy support squads. Squads. Yeah, it's heavy support squads.
So it sort of does, other than the fact that Arquiters are really bad, and I wasn't going to take them in my heavy support anyway. Any weapon with a barrage special rule used in the detachment only scatters D6 instead of 2D6, including shots when fired with the barrage special rule.
So without line of sight?
Yes, and that's within any point of a unit of Iron Warriors. when that actually happens, that unit gains stubborn until the end of the next turn, from the final point of the blast, basically. So your units within 12 of the final point of a blast that's only scattered d6 gain stubborn. And any infantry units may re-roll any failed armor saves against wounds inflicted with the blast special rule. So it's like heavy, but not, because you don't gain heavy and the negatives associated with that. You just get to re-roll it. So the limitation to this is deep strike assault, subterranean assault, flanking assault can't be used. You must include more Arquiters, Basilisks, or Medusas than you do units of the cavalry type. So if you have 0 units of cavalry, you need 1 of these other units that are terrible. Because I would say all of those 3 are really bad.
Arquiters are alright. I'd take a 200-point Arquiter. They're not terrible.
Do you know what? You should run this list on the channel, and you should just give the Medusas a rock. And the only reason I say that is because with Melos coming up, I have Vindicators again. And although they're not what they're used to be, I think in some scenarios they can work, because the brutal on them is actually horrific.
Yeah.
So
making
although
them roll those saves.
Yeah, and the way I can't remember what, because there's brutal on Medusas as well, and they are still like strength 9.
No, there's no brutal. It's rending 6 up, whereas the Basilisk doesn't get rending 6 up. It gets shred.
Yeah, Connor's talking about the Vindicators also. Vindicators.
Right. Yeah, but did the Medusas
Typhons have brutal?
No,
so most blasts have got it either. Heavily.
They've just okay.
Yeah, so Arquiters aren't the best, but taking 1 in a troop slot as well, it's not the end of the world.
No, it's not. It's not. Like, I would have liked them to, and this is wish listing again, obviously, what we just did in Emperor's Children one with the flanking assault, but if they'd have included Scorpius and Rapier quad mortars in that list, I would have had a lot more time for it.
Yeah, because Scorpius is arguably probably one of the better blast weapons in this edition. Like, it's still not amazing, like some people make it out to be. It's okay.
No,
but it is probably the better of the blast weapons.
What are the rules on the Medusa shells now?
Medusa's large blast, strength 9, AP 4, rending 6.
Still does a fair. Like,
so
if you get those 6s,
you can get the 6s.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
do you know what? It's not what it used. Not what it used to be, but it used to be ridiculous. Let's be honest.
Like, Custodes aren't scared of this anymore. Custodians aren't scared of this anymore, which is what you kind of wanted the Medusas for.
Yeah, well, I would have quite liked it if all artillery had been like breaching 4 rather than rending 6. But with the Scorpius being there with a breaching 4, like it just rules out most other artillery for me.
Scorpius is rending 4.
Oh, rending 4 then, sorry. But
I think anyway, that's what was played against me this weekend.
Breaching or rending, other than against tanks, it largely doesn't.
Someone about to get called out, yeah.
It's like, it's fine. It only works on a 6 anyway, because we took some absolutely horrendous stuff. So
yeah. So finally, you've got to take a Siege Breaker console, which then unlocks force specs on your quad.
Hear me out. In 1.0, Siege Breakers were an auto include in my Iron Warriors. I don't know what they do in 2.0. I don't remember. Do they give like a squad within 6?
Well, James, we did a whole video on these consoles that if you look on the link below, you'll be able to see and remind yourself.
That is fair. Is that the one I turned off after?
So I think we just skimmed over it.
It's 6-inch bubble. Pick one unit, gains Sunder, which is obviously ruled out largely by las cannons having Sunder already.
Anyway,
if you want to take inferior choices to las cannons, a Siege Breaker is still good on Tyrants.
But I was going to say it'd be alright on a squad of Tyrants.
It's like if you want to take missile launcher squads or something, but like you're already then playing B leagues, so I can't sit here and say it's brilliant.
Like, no, Tyrants are pretty strong still. Like they're not as amazing as they were in like the pre-release rules that got leaked where they had twin linked, but still a lot of strength 9 anti-tank is pretty tasty.
Yeah, I think it's then coming in to like this Rite of War, yeah, if you're taking this Rite of War, a Siege Breaker you've got to take, so you stick him in Tyrants. Outside of this Rite of War, I think like a Librarian or Master of Signals is potentially better going with Tyrants. And probably not Master of Signals because a Tech Marine exists. Oh no, can't go with Tyrants.
Yeah.
Can't go with Tyrants. So arguably a Master of Signals or Librarian is better than a Siege Breaker. Now,
yeah,
like sort of careening back to the actual Rite of War, I think Stubborn's good. Like I've run this Rite of War only like twice. I think it is maybe 3 times, but I'll safely go with twice. The Stubborn is nice being where you want it, like leaning a bit more into quads and like having a Scorpius to do my work was, do you know, like I found was the way to go because they could actually get some damage done. It's quite good. Like I liked the Stubborn.
Do you know what it's actually quite a nice Rite of War. The reason it's let down is because one of the units you have to take is not viable at the moment. Literally, if let's say Medusas went back to what they used to be, and they shouldn't, by the way, they need an upgrade, but they shouldn't be what they used to be. If they did, all of a sudden it's a very good Rite of War because that unit's unreal.
Or even if just they have the profile of a Scorpius, or if that's
what I mean. Like, in my that's a whole different conversation because I still think the Medusas and I think the Medusas and the Vindicators really should be having 4-up rendings. To be honest, because they're like they're shells to break down. Like the strongest of buildings.
I mean, like the Arquitor is not terrible. 36-inch, strength 10, AP 4. Large blast, pinning, rending 6+.
Yeah. Or you've got the strength 7
bad.
massive blast 7-inch that runs out of ammo on a 1. Like it's not like complete write off, but I think it's an unnecessary tax.
We've all been spoiled with AP2 blast weapons from Heresy 1. That's the issue. You're so used to everything being that because I did it with my fists as well. I used to run Team Medusas straight away, all the time, because it would just be like that's cool. Because if I can't, I'll just fire this at your Terminators.
If someone dropped a large pie plate on your Phalanx Warders,
now,
it'd still do a fair bit of damage.
Let me put it this way.
It'd be annoying. Yeah, definitely.
Pinning test as well. But.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way then. So, 24 Rapier heavy bolter shots are the same AP. AP.
No, I'm not listening to anything that says
heavy bolters. The same AP as a Medusa. Why don't you like heavy bolters? It's because of the AP.
No, I don't like heavy bolters for a different reason. Like that,
because I constantly go on
that
about
scares custodes. Like that scares custodes.
No, it doesn't. Strength. The arc.
Strength 10. Yeah. Strength 10.
Yeah, but you're still relying on to fail those 2-up saves.
It rends on a 6.
You are, but you are, but at the same time though, there is more of a fear factor there because anything that's 2 wounds you're just killing. So you only need to fail 1 rather than 2, and it's making a difference. And if you're with the blasts, depending on what you're putting them on, as an example, I mean Warders are not a great example in Stone Gauntlet really with the rerolls, but they're all tightly bunched, so you're getting 15 hits. You know,
with the lack of scatter. With the lack of scatter, you're placing it where you want it. You're getting the Stubborn, so I can just stand in front of the Warders and force you to charge me.
And you're getting.
I don't think this Rite of War
as much
is bad.
of a save as I am.
I don't think it's particularly bad.
Can see the comments now. 3 Iron Warriors players spending 20 minutes commenting on their Rite of War.
Yeah. So let's move on. Like
I've already flipped the page tonight, Lords.
That's just been cut. So quickly.
Nah, that's good.
I'm surprised he's not clapped his hands so he knows where the audio is to cut.
And for everyone at home that's still watching this because I've not cut it, that is in fact what I do.
Yeah.
So Night Lord's Rites.
It's like some weird lights on, lights off action.
Siri, delete that bit. Alexa, add titty chips to my shopping list. So, right, we've got Night Lord's Rite of War. We've got the Swift Blade, which is the biker Rite of War. your Praetor, and then 4 more, so total 5 HQ slots. They all count as the Warlord jointly, so all must be taken out to gain the victory point for Slay the Warlord, or to remove your extra reaction in terms of Warlord trait. They all get the Jadek Clan Lord Warlord trait, but only get 1 additional reaction a turn. You don't get like all 5 having that. So James, what does Jadek Clan Lord do?
So the unit gets counterattack 1, which is quite nice. Ignores movement penalties for terrain, so you can move and charge through terrain without any modifiers. Rerolls failed dangerous terrain, and they get an extra movement phase reaction.
Decent. Like, it doesn't quite tie in with your Night Lord's advanced reaction as a wall. Do you know like where that trait comes? But
yeah,
it's fairly decent, especially if you want to be doing movement reactions.
Kind of. Again, sort of fluffy as well, I suppose, when you look at a Night Lords type thing, how they're, you know, they're all a little bit out for themselves, aren't they? Like, I'm going to say terms that will upset people, but cowardice. So it's like, you know, all their HQs are there, but it's sort of 5-on-1, if that makes sense. In an army, you might have 1 HQ and the other, and it's sort of a 5-on-1, trying to make it an unfair fight situation. So I quite like that. I quite like the way that's done as well, in terms of you have to kill all of them. I think that makes it a real challenge for...
Yeah, and each sort of shows the war bandiness of the night, like, because they're the most evolved of any of the legions at like sort of mid heresy after they get scattered in Thramas.
So it's kind of it's a bike heavy Rite of War, really, isn't it? That's the aim of it.
Yeah, so your Outriders are troops, but not line. The Rite of War can only be primary. The Warlord... basically, you can't take any other model that can be Warlord. Yeah, so Curse.
Yeah, so no Curse.
And you pointed out, just as I did in fact cut it without clapping, so that I could read that block of text.
Yeah, they're Rites of War anyway, so it didn't matter. So no, like, Fury of the Ancients or Armoured Breakthrough, but that doesn't matter because they're alternate Rites of War to this. Yeah,
unless you can't have that in an allied detachment as well then. And as well, you can't take any units with 1 or more models with heavy, bombard, slow, super heavy, or artillery. So yet again, no tarantulas. I'm starting to feel this relentless hate of tarantulas.
The hate.
Yeah.
Get the FAQ in, tarantula only list.
So this got a hit because bikes aren't amazing in 2.0. This started to run rampant, I believe, at the end of 1.0.
Yeah,
this Rite of War, but in 2.0 it's more like a fun narrative thing.
Yeah, when you can't have the 2+ Jinx save, it starts to fall apart a little bit. I like it. I'd like it more.
What's a Jinx save?
What's that?
What's a Jinx save?
I don't know. I think it's the thought of what makes White Scars players cry nowadays into their pillows.
Glaives.
Yes.
Bring back the glaives. It's yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? It's a side grade based on maybe a slightly weak unit, but doesn't give line.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, because you're going to be running lots of bikes. Yeah, lots of bikes, but they don't get line. So.
Yeah, I think that's it, really, isn't it? Like we said, we're not massively overly sold on bikes, so it's difficult to say. Do you know what? If there's anyone who's run the Rite of War, I would definitely be interested to see what they think of it in the comments and how they run it, because it's not something I've actually come up against, because it's normally the other one that they use that we'll get onto in a minute. But if people have run it, I'd definitely be interested in how they find it and what their pros and cons are. So, because I've not had too much experience in it.
Yeah, so with that, let's go on into Terror Assault. Now, this is one that I was saying in the Loyalist video was one of the better Rites of War in general. And that's
4.5 megas.
I didn't say... I've not yet scored it, Connor. I've not yet scored it.
I'm going to do it right now.
Don't put megas in my mouth. So...
is it time for our monster promotion?
I've not got one on me. They're all downstairs.
Disgusting behaviour. How are we going to get this sponsorship?
We're never going to get this sponsorship.
Disgraceful.
So
all those monster CEOs that are watching this video just turned off.
I know.
Damn, the target market is gone.
Side note, they've started selling Green Monster at Warhammer World along with White Monster. So.
Oh, yes. Yes.
No word of a lie. Again, another side note, and I know people might be switching off now. I've literally had this in every one of your videos that I have been on this channel, I think.
Well, I've got a 24-pack of White Monster downstairs. I can't consume any more today, Connor. So after that brief interlude of monster drinks, Terror Assault. So basically, you automatically get night fighting in the first turn. The second turn is... Oh, it's definitely till the end of the second turn. Third turn is on a 4+. If the roll is 3 or less, it immediately ends. At the start of the fourth turn, night fighting's automatically gone. Terrorist assault squads and Night Raptor squads can be taken as troops, but they don't gain line. Any models with Night Lords and character unit subtypes gain Fear 1 in this detachment. It can only be used as a primary detachment. It can only take a single heavy support, and may not include Lords of War choices or super heavy vehicle subtypes.
Oh no.
I know, because we see them prolifically everywhere nowadays, don't we?
Just doesn't need it, does it? Just doesn't need it. Right, okay, so I suppose James is more loyalist now than he is traitor, but you know, you won't know anything, Max. You step aside for a minute.
What, not having played against
not
this?
having been a traitor, yeah. It's actually one of my most feared Rite of Wars to play against, because it's so impactful. The fear and the night fighting, the fear, in the nice, if you've kind of not set up for that, it can just be well, I know, but not. You are right. But my point being is that if you're not set, it destroys you.
Oh yeah. Like in generically playing 4-turn games, like forcing night fighting at 2 or 3 of those turns. Those games is quite huge, like reducing range on things. I know a lot of people have kind of pivoted into the Tech Marine Cognus meta or the Armistice meta, as we saw at Warhammer World this last weekend, with every heavy sports squad having night vision.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still like -1 leadership is scary on your tactical squads. Fear 1 on your characters, like Kerr's running around mincing stuff is horrific still. It's a very good Rite of War. Like you say, if you're not set up for it, we've kind of pivoted to like the Herald meta, where we're immune to fear or fearless.
Yeah.
But if you're not set up that way, it can rinse through your snipers with this, pinning all your scoring units, telepathy librarians. You know, they'll just rinse you.
And just their troops in general have, some of them have fear as well, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
I think as well.
Anyone with the character type in this army gains fear. So I think one of the things to say is, like with you saying everyone needs to be set up for night fighting, James, everyone needs to take either the Nuncio Vox and an Augury scanner to half set up for it, which is the same price Night Lords players are paying for full night vision, or a Tech Marine to gain full night vision in just the shooting phases anyway. That the Night Lords players are only paying 20 points for, so only a quarter of the cost. So also it's a massive tie-in with Kerr's, because he just gives them all night fighting for free.
Unlike Terror Squads being troops, they're scary. Like fully kitted out with Volkites, I think you can do. Yeah, any model can have a Volkite. Yeah. Precision strikes, preferred enemy infantry, just the re-rolls upon re-rolls.
Night Lords, I think they're a slept upon legion massively, because they are. They're one of the legions that if I come against as a fist, I think to myself, I've got to play well in this, because my survivability isn't enough. Yeah, because there's so much else going on. There are a fair amount of legions where, like I said, that survivability is more than enough, and you can have mistakes, but against them with their fear and, like you said, everything else, you know, it's a lot. They're strong, man. They're
like we
strong.
talked in the other video about the weakness of Stone Gauntlet being like mass dice.
Yeah.
Terror squads with rotor cannons, hitting your precision striking your sergeants out, rerolling ones to hit, rerolling ones to wound, just making you roll that massive dice.
Yeah.
I think Bloody Murder is if they have more models than you, they get plus one to wound
yeah.
or something.
Yeah. So it means that means
that
they're
would
rotating.
rinse a Phalanx squad.
Yeah.
That just rinses.
So it's I think it's maybe more of a comment on terror squads at night time. But yeah, rotor cannons plus one. If you've got a 10 plus an apothecary, you outnumber a lot of squads. So then you wounded on 4s. Your precision shots will then be able to snipe if they've gone with a non-Seal Vox. The non-Seal Vox. It's
the
night time
sergeant.
for the -1, or the sergeant, and then it's night time for -1, shell shock for -1, and that then is what we said about Iron Warriors.
And that's not including if you're even a certain distance away and there's an additional one for and all that. It's mad. It's mad, and all of a sudden you're rolling double ones to try and keep a unit
from being pinned. As soon as they're pinned, they're out of the game, basically.
Well, it's one of the only rights of war, and I don't know, maybe you disagree with this, but that I think deep striking is actually quite good, because on turn 2, if you've got reserved manipulation so that you're definitely coming in turn 2 or near as damn it, you come down at night with your Night Raptors, you're now within 6 for the fear, it's night, and you're...
you lost me at Night Raptors, mate, I'm sorry.
So it actually got done to me quite successfully on the Sector Wargaming channel. And I'd not been fully set up for night because it was quite early in Heresy 2, but with it cuts out that bit of deep strike where you've got mass incoming fire. So he managed to drop in, pin a load of units quite easily, and then charge by stringing out a few deep striking units. So it's at least halfway there to mitigating.
I mean, like terror squads as your compulsory troops. I know they've not got line, but you can take 15 of them if you want to with Volkite or rotor cannons, which is quite scary.
Max squad size?
Yeah. So start at 5, can take up to 10 more, and then you just take recons with snipers as your scoring troops. Everything infiltrates. That's horrendously scary, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I definitely think this is an upgrade to not taking a Rite of War.
100%. 100%. Because what's...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Even with the single heavy support choice, it's enough benefits that it definitely upgrades you.
Your one last cannon squad, which gains night vision without having to take a Cognis. That's just, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah.
So I know we've been avoiding ratings this video. I'm not going to ask us to put a rating on it, but I would definitely say this is up there with the better Rites of War.
Yeah.
Like,
if you build into it, it is immense.
Look, this is going to be an early thing because I can't remember all of the Traitor Rite of Wars, but for me, this is like the Traitor version of Stone Gauntlet, if not slightly better.
So
I know.
Yeah, no, this is a nuts Rite of War. Yeah. This is
so good. It's so good.
I've played it a couple of times, and it is literally you do have to play well. Otherwise, the Rite of War is just
yeah.
So before we bash off Night Lords anymore and all become Night Lords players, let's move on. And that is to the World Eaters Rite of War. And that's page 217 for James, sat there at home.
Already there, mate. Already there.
He's one step ahead of the game.
It's all over it, mate.
Yeah.
All over it.
So we've got Berserker Assault, and that is basically all your World Eaters add +2 to the distance moved when running. You get +2 to the distance when charging. All units with World Eaters gain a bonus to the leadership of +1 when making pinning checks, so you're a bit more resistant to pinning. Rampager squads can be taken as troops in a detachment with this Rite of War. Predator squadrons as fast. And then we get to the big downsides, because there is one. And that's you've got to declare a charge if you're within 12 of an enemy unit, and you may not initiate multiple combats. And I think that's a real big one. And you can't take an allied detachment, pretty meh, unless we including the recon allied detachment to go first.
I don't think that's a massive limitation, if I'm honest with you.
I don't think it's a massive limitation for the fact of how World Eaters play personally, because it's all about getting in combat. And so I've only played a couple of World Eaters players in this version, and one of them used this. And I must admit, as the opposing player, you can kind of manipulate a little bit what they do, but it does depend, but not really, because they still get to move and do whatever they want. So if you set yourself up in a position to be like, oh, I'm going to make these units charge me, they just move them. Yeah, either they'll just hit me like an absolute train, or they just move away into whatever they want to hit anyway. So it doesn't really affect it much unless they forget about it. That's the only time it really.
You could try and trick them with a movement reaction. So like they move a unit up, and like you make a combat Death Star within 12 after they've moved, and they're like, oh no, I have to charge it. But if that's a possibility, they either have run, so they can't charge anyway, or as soon as you do that, they start moving 3 units there and triple charge your Death Star, and chop it to pieces. So it's fully within the hands of the World Eater player.
And I'm just going to throw... Oh, go on, Max.
No. Before I go on to the next bit. This exact point.
No, because mine's moving on to something else to do with this, but go on, right. you go.
So what I was going to say is the multi-charge not being available means that blocking rhinos become a real problem. Like, because I played a couple of games as World Eaters, and they said borrowing an army, and it like losing control on that charge means that I can't multi-charge a unit to soak up all the hold the lines that are going to be coming in. Because if I multi-charge, I'm not getting a bonus anyway, so there's no point holding the line. So that would be a tactic to just get the charge off, pin down them units, then you charge, say, like with a big tactical squad, let's just say. Then your rampagers charge in, single squads, gain their bonuses to charge in. And now, it gives you that freedom to just play with the units like that, versus only being able to charge one unit at a time means that they're really manipulatable. And I do think it is, like, you see lots
sounds like user error to me.
There's no choice involved in it, so it can't be error.
Yeah, but it's how you set up that in the first place. That's what I mean. Like, that's what James was just saying.
I can't set it up because
of course, yeah.
Because I can only charge one unit.
Yeah, you can only charge one unit, but then you charge you make it so you charge the unit that you want to charge anyway, because that's ultimately what you're going to want to do. So even if they fire, like the way James is saying it is, you're overwhelming people. So you're unlike conventionally where you might be going, I'm going to send one unit into this, one unit into that, as most of us would do. You're not. You're setting up 2 units to go in everything. So even if they move something else, something's still going to get where you want to go. And the thing is your rhino's going to go there, but it's going to get wrecked straight away. So they're just going to be moving on, which adds into the fluff side of it.
Yeah, but doesn't then lock a unit in combat that prevents them getting shot at. Honestly, it's quite a big downside, because I can just react forward with a rhino. As the opposing player, if I have my units lined up, I can just react forward with the crappish unit that I've got, and your Death Star or whatever is... I'm not saying it's always going to happen, but it's a big downside.
I get what you're saying.
It can do, but then that, and just
that's
before James says his thing, and what I would also say is, and some of our reactions as loyalists can make that happen anyway, because you get within a certain distance, Imperial Fiskars countercharge you. I'm pretty sure there's a couple others. There's a couple others. I want to say
Space Wolves have got to start within 12 of another Space Wolf unit. I know this is sort of a side thing,
right? So just to get your point back onto this, you said, like, I move my unit up, you move your rhino up as a reaction, so I have to charge it. But I've moved that unit up, so it's in range to charge the unit I want to charge. It doesn't say you have to charge the closest.
It does.
No, it does. It does. There is one that charges the closest one.
But you've got to charge the closest unit on the 4th line.
Closest set of unit. Yeah, fair play. Yeah. But then surely you just run a unit in between, so you can't charge it anyway.
Or you in this instance, and again, I know it's situational, use something else to destroy the tank the rhino in the meantime, if possible. I get what you're saying, but I think it's very situational in that scenario. And like I said, yes, there's a manipulation of it. And I think because of that, it is not necessarily as good as a terror assault, but it is a very good Rite of War.
No,
the additional movement, the additional charge is pretty mental as well. And can I just say, which is what I was going to say, Rampager squads are the nuts.
Yeah,
they are
4+ rend with phalanx splits.
4+ the rend. They're all chosen warrior,
and they've all got furious charge
as well. And the furious charge, they're stubborn.
It's +1 strength from the phalanx blade as well, which puts them at strength 6 for a rad grenade sort of double out.
They are nuts, mate, and they are so good. And funny enough, when we were talking a little bit of a side segment when we was talking about Sigismund the other day, James, this was a unit that I got murked with. Absolutely murked with, because Sigismund just couldn't get through. I was killing. He had a 20. The world player I had 20 rampages, and because of the way the challenge is, it just have a rampager. And do you know what? Rampages. Oh, he might have had 15. 15. No, he had 15 in a character and something else. Right. And I was like, I just can't get through it. Can't get through.
No, maybe we got too hung up on the limitation. But
they've got a 3-up save. They've got 2 wounds each. Weapon skill 5. They don't have shred on the flanks blades. I don't think.
No,
just rending 4 up. So they're all right. They're quite tasty. If they've all got jump packs, they'll hit what they want and kill it. Probably.
You can take some of the.
They're not Dark Furies, though, are they? They're not Dark Furies.
They're not Dark Furies, but they are. They're quality.
Yeah, they are tasty.
They are quality.
Dark Furies, because if you get rad grenades somewhere in there, I think the Rite of War is good. I think we got limitation. We got hung up on me saying the limitation is. No, I think is big.
I think it's an upgrade to not taking a Rite of War for World Eaters.
Yeah. So the +2 charge distance, even if it was just that, rather than the charge and run.
Yeah, because don't forget that stacks. If you've got a Warhawk jump pack that gives you an additional +2, that's +4 to your charge. I know it caps at 12, but that's it's pretty. I enjoy having +3 to charge with my Dark Furies. +4 to charge would be amazing.
Yeah,
almost guarantees a charge if you're 8 inches away.
And it fits in quite nicely with their advanced reaction of when you get shot, you can declare a charge afterwards. Yeah. So, do you know, for that +2, and then obviously, as you said, with the jump pack +4 to that charge after being shot. So, yeah.
It's good. They're good. I think it's...
Are any of us thinking that allied detachment thing is a massive thing? No?
No. Have we lost Connor?
Yeah, maybe for a second. So
he's back. Yeah.
All the tech issues, Ryan.
So
I was just saying they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the allied detachment thing isn't a massive because you can't take an allied detachment. You can still take an optional knight detachment. You can still take an optional titan detachment.
Yeah, I was more just filling the void for the voids in between having Connor on. So
whatever. Who cares? Move on to the next one. Yeah. I'll give up.
The Crimson Path. Basically, the first wound inflicted on the unit in each phase is just ignored. No saves, mitigation rolls are needed for this. It's simply discarded. That's nice. It's quite nice. It's very good when I've used it in Mechanicum. I've not actually used this Rite of War as World Eaters, because you do always see Berserker Assault, I find. But it's nice to just discount. Say a wound comes in, or you've rended with your Medusa, let's say. You've got your 6-up rend once, I'll discount that one.
Yeah, because as the defending player, you pick the order of wounds, don't you? Yeah. So you do you have the wound pool, and you just go, right, that's the first wound. Ignore it. Yeah. That was a last cannon. Unlucky. Yeah. And I'll take these bolter saves.
And if anyone happens to be taking a Praetor with a Paragon Blade, I know there's a bit of a shocker, very rare. But unless James is playing his Raven Guard on channel, you can just discount, the instant death wound, well, that's gone.
Yeah. Because Murderous Strike has to be taken as the first wound.
Yeah. So, yeah. You gain... It will not die 5+ on any independent characters with World Eaters. It doesn't stack with any other It Will Not Dies. Rampager squads gain line in this Rite of War.
5 megas. That's it. Move on. Done. Dusted.
Whoa. Let's get to the limitations. Maybe we'll have a good argument on it. Detachments using this Rite of War must include more units composed as infantry than units not composed of infantry, and may only include a single heavy sport.
So that reads to me as first one, not not a limitation because it's an infantry game now. Second one, you only get one last cannon squad. Cool, that's fine.
Yeah,
I like that.
Do you know what? I just looking at both of them. I've obviously got a World Eater army that's grey.
Neil, get painted.
Neil, where's my Angron? Just saying. Max, why have you given me the World Eaters back that I told you to leave at your house? Just saying. Because they were in the boot of the car since I went up there fucking 4 months ago or whatever it was, until like 2 weeks ago. Anyway, both of their Rite of Wars they're probably two of the most rounded Rite of Wars, where both are like you can kind of take one or the other quite happily. Do you know what I mean? Most legions, it's sort of even the ones we've gone through. You know, just recently, you know, Night Lords were taking Terror Assault. Yeah. You know, you're probably taking a Hammer of Olympia rather potentially than the other one, or whatever way you rounded it. Yeah, there's one that sticks out everywhere along. With this, it's sort of, do you know what? I'm going to change it up, and I think it's on a similar level. It's just like I can change it up, and it still be quite viable.
But do you tend to see, like whenever I see World Eaters players, they're running Berserker Assault. Now, I'm not commenting there on the power level of them, but between the three of us, do we ever see anyone playing Crimson Path?
I don't see a lot of World Eaters players personally. I've
no,
across a lot of World Eaters players in 2.0. My own experience.
Not in the few World Eaters players I've played against, and it is, like James said, quite limited. There are obviously there always is. I'd be interested in what Seb thinks, actually, our Nordic.
Seb doesn't play Heresy 2.
Don't say that out loud.
Seb has moved to Battletech Alpha Strike.
Oh, well, fuck what Seb thinks then.
James is happy with that.
Whatever you say, Seb, I don't care anymore. You're no longer my friend. In fact, I'm going to remove him from Facebook as we speak.
Yeah, they're pretty rounded. It's worthwhile taking both, or at least giving a look into both of them, even if you determine one for yourself is better or worse.
I think
I am more inclined myself to Berserker Assault, but I think you're right. There is a choice between them.
I also think that people lean towards the Berserker Assault because it was the one to take previously.
Yeah,
so the natural thing is to fall into that. I think Rampage's line is a little bit. It's gone under the radar. Is a little underrated.
Well, I think it's because we tend to focus on the is it troops? When actually, having line on an assault unit that can clear something off an objective and then
it's stubborn. It's stubborn as well.
Dark Furies with the Heralds.
Yeah, I keep pointing up to you because you're up on my screen, but actually everyone's going to see you down there. Yeah, but
I can see Connor making a joke already.
I'm not going to say anything.
Right, let's move on.
Let's move on to the most broken Traitor Rite of War.
Deathguard. So, the Reaping. Veteran squads may be chosen as troops in a detachment using this Rite of War.
Yeah, no one uses that. It's the next point.
Heavy support squads may be taken as non-compulsory troops in this Rite of War. There we go. Any model in the detachment using this Rite of War and with character subtype may take rag grenades. Models in this detachment may not run or make any reactions that allows them to move, with the exception of the remorseless advanced reaction, which is their special advanced reaction, obviously. And you basically can't deploy with alternate deployment methods like Deep Strike. I'm agreeing with James. This is very good. Heavy support squads, we all know how good they are, and this lets you take a lot of them.
Well, and on top of that, Deathguard can move and fire their heavy support squads without penalty. Yeah. So you just have las cannon squads moving up, Volkite squads walking forward as troops.
You've just gone to Warhammer World event.
Yeah, I've played this. Not this because they couldn't take this Rite of War, but I played the Deathguard in Game 5, the last game.
Were they not allowed to take this Rite of War?
No, they were allowed to take it. They didn't have the points to take it.
Right. Gotcha.
As in to make
of course, it's a doubles event, isn't it?
Yeah. Because so they had the 3 heavy support squads, 2 las cannon squads, and a Volkite squad that did move about, and that won them 4 out of 5 games. Obviously, playing us, we managed to pin some of them, so they didn't shoot after turn. Like it was an amazingly fun game. We had a massive laugh. Like the last cannon squads did like job my Thylax in combat, which was hilarious. They just like beat them to death with the butts of their las cannon instead of las cannon them. So yeah, it was an awesome game.
So
do we need to describe how good this Rite of War is?
Well, yeah. I'll tell you why we do, because people asked in the comments, and we are of people. We are of the people. like the Judeans.
We are one of you.
We spoke about making a list for this, didn't we, Max? When we were around yours a while ago.
So I
just how horrific it could be.
You can in fact fit 70 las cannons in a 3K list.
Yeah, but you wouldn't.
This War.
No, yeah, we were.
No,
it wasn't just 7
like,
las cannons, but we were. Yeah, so it was just all use of. You know, although everyone goes to las cannons, it's because it's the optimal side of things. If you can take like 4 or 5 heavy weapons squads, the things that you could put in that to just destroy armies is unreal.
Like I said, the team we played, the team from Essex that we played Game 5, like the Deathguard player knew exactly what he was doing with these units, like positioning wise on deployment, where he was going to move them to. Like the fact you could just move them like around a bit, like normally you'd hide behind a building. He was just like, "Now just walk around the building, the last cannon you to death." It's and then that was with only 3 heavy sports choices, like putting your heavy sports squads in troops, walking them forward. You've just got Volkite squads that evaporate phalanx warders, las cannon squads that evaporate anything else in the game. Rad grenades on characters can't be understated. So stick a rad grenade on your character. The Deathguard scythe, suddenly instant death stings. This is an amazing Rite of War.
Yeah, and it's like with Night Lords, it ties nicely into the Legion rules, like just how the army operates in general.
Yeah,
it has a stipulation meaning that one of the limitations isn't affecting you on the one that you want to do.
Yeah. So I suppose the only downside to this, which is hilarious, in 4-turn missions for Warhammer World, if you table your opponent, you don't automatically win. That's the only downside to this, because you're generally going to be tabling your opponent with it, because it is amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so good. It's so good.
Right. So let's move on to Creeping Death.
5 megas.
There we go. There's the first rating of the video. And I'm not going to disagree with it. So, Creeping Death. All models in the attachment using this Rite of War automatically pass dangerous terrain checks that you're called on to make. All models in the attachment using this Rite of War gain a 6+ shrouded. And the entire deployment zone of a detachment using this Rite of War becomes difficult and dangerous. All zones of area terrain, including name types such as jungles, woods, ruins, craters, count as dangerous. In a detachment using this Rite of War, Grave Wardens are non-compulsory troops, but they've fallen off the planet, I think. And Rites of War may only be used by a detachment with the Traitor allegiance, and you must include a Centurion, Cataphractic Centurion, or a Tartarus with Siegebreaker.
So this is, again, another awesome Rite of War, because it slows down your opponents a lot, and you don't care because you're Deathguard.
Well, it makes the terrain dangerous, doesn't it? It doesn't make out of deployment zone difficult. It just makes deployment zone difficult.
And area terrain, which is generally all terrain on the battlefield, dangerous. Like, this was so irritating. I played Rich at this in the first Warhammer World event, and he had this as his Rite of War. And obviously my Dark Furies jumped into his deployment zone and started eating things. And then I was like, well, I can't consolidate and attack, because if I consolidate, I've moved and my jump pack's active, so I'll have to do a dangerous terrain test. And then at the end of the turn, I consolidate automatically because you have to. So another dangerous terrain test. Like, if you've not got a 4+ invuln, which the Dark Furies do, you're just dying from walking in their deployment zone. It's quite scary.
Yeah, like Leggy did it to me when I played his Death Guard at the start of Heresy 2. And I agree, it's really scary. It really helped in Tides of Carnage, which is the 357 mission. It's like, to get that 7 was like really hard, because any unit that I moved in there, as soon as they're in there, every time I move it, they're taking damage. So if I want to escape someone, I'm taking damage just by trying to escape. And if I stand there, well, he's got free reign to just move into a position to shoot me with his mobile heavy sports squads. So it's really nice for tying down your opponent to just pin them in locations. So yeah, I think really good as well. It's another one where
two very solid Rite of Wars. Yeah. Like the World Eaters, they're both solid Rite of Wars that you could quite happily take either interchangeably. Obviously, I would say the Reaping personally would be the better of the two, just because more last cannons, more better. But
yeah, but it's still not. It's not like one. Yeah, like as you were saying, it's not like one is 100% and one's 20. No. It's one is very good and one is slightly less very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the stipulations like got to take a siege breaker. I can get over that.
Yeah, that's not a massive hardship. Even though I still don't remember what siege breakers do.
all those heavy sports squads that you can take in the other Rite of War would be greatly benefited by this siege breaker in this Rite of War.
What, the Volkite squads that don't have Sunder?
Yes, them ones that can only glance down as armor value 12 tank. So, Connor, unless you've got anything to add, we will move on.
No, mate, I'd just echo it exactly the same. I think, like you've just said, they're both very good Rites of War, and it's another Legion where I think they're really well-rounded. One is clearly stronger than the other, but both are more than takeable.
How much does it cost to get 30 last cannons from Forge World?
We did work from
monetary.
Deathguard shoulder pads. Let's go.
So on to Thousand Sons Rites of War. So we start off with the Acheron configuration, of which Castellax Archaea can be non-compulsory troops choices. Any model in attachment using this Rite of War that's within 12 of one of those Castellax Archaea and suffers of perils can allocate the wounds to the Castellax instead. But you could already sort of allocate that around your squad anyway. A Castellax Archaea model in this detachment using this Rite of War is considered to have line as long as it's within 6 of a friendly model with both Legion Astartes Thousand Sons and the Psyker subtype, which they all have through Legion Astartes Thousand Sons.
Sergeants have it, don't they?
Oh, is it only the Sergeants cast, but I think all models have the Psyker subtype for Thousand Sons. If you'll just check that while I'm going through. So limitations, any Castellax Archaea unit selected as troops must include more than one model. A detachment using this Rite of War must include at least one Tech Marine Covenant, which is a real downside in Heresy 2. And detachment using this Rite of War must include at least one model with the Praevian upgrade. So this is one that, again, hinges on the unit that it's allowing you to do stuff with. It's all the Castellax Archaea are automata, as is in the name, which doesn't allow them to react, which I find is a big hindrance in a Legions list where you can't use a Magos to allow them to react. It just takes away some protection in the enemy shooting phase. They can't evade, even if you can. A Thousand Sons Battle Brothers or Swarm Brothers with Mechanicum? So your fellow warriors, not Swarm Brothers, so you can't add in additional Magos from somewhere else to gain reactions. Have you guys got any experience of this at all?
I've not, but just at first glance, like these Castellax Archaea, 140 points. They've got an Aether Fire Cannon, which is Strength 6, Rending 6+, with a Chaos Force, which can make it Strength 8. It's a blast weapon. And it scores. I mean, that's not horrendous. But it's not a Contemptor and it's an Elite's choice, so...
Well, they're troops in this Rite of War, non-compulsory with line. So I
don't think that's horrendous. I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, it's a cool one. It suffers from some downsides, doesn't it? It's just like the Strength 8 from the Force. You're saying?
Yeah,
it's obviously
so
then doubling out
strength.
Marines.
Yeah, Rending. It's a blast weapon.
Let's stop being nice. Who plays Thousand Sons anymore?
Well, they are pretty. They're very orky in this edition, aren't they? They're terrible based on the random chance that you're going to fail all those tests. If you could rely on passing every single test that you took, Thousand Suns would be quite good. But
yeah, so we played a chap called Kieran, who is from our local Blackpool club, Warhammer World. Travelled down to Nottingham to play someone from your local club, and he was running Thousand Suns Fury of the Ancients, and his Fury Psychic Dreadnoughts, obviously casting random powers, and a Psychic Hood on a model just messed it up, and there were perils in. It was quite upsetting. Not for us. I like you, Kieran, but I'm glad you died. So yeah, the having a Psychic is all right. Like, but relying on psychic powers is still a double-edged sword in this edition. It's not an auto win.
Yeah, especially for it to be a Legion trait-based one. And these, I suppose, we now talking more about the Legion's power levels. But
true.
like, I think this is an okay one. 4,000 Suns. It's
a good side grade, like a toughness 6 scoring unit. It's pretty decent.
Yeah. I just think it suffers from the limitations that 1,000 Suns come with. So on to Guard of the Crimson King. So basically, you can designate up to 6 units that have the infantry type. They all gain Deep Strike and Fear 1 when they're deployed, off the turn that they're deployed by Deep Strike. Sekhmet Cabals can be selected as troops in a detachment using this Rite of War, but don't from this gain line. And I said that in a bit of a weird way. I don't think they line anyway, so they don't have line. No. You must include Magnus, Ahriman, or a Praetor, and you may not use allies because they're too esoteric for that in this. So it suffers from the Deep Strike.
Unfortunately,
not brilliant.
I have played against this. It was quite scary. Like dropping in Fear 1, pinning tests. Like the Herald and Korax kind of mitigated a bit of it on the units I wanted to mitigate on it. It, like you say, doesn't come in turn 2 unless you've got a Master of Signals to help manipulate those rolls to almost guarantee it. And your scary units, your Magnus, your Sekhmet, they're the ones that are going to be in Deep Strike. So like I say, it suffers from the, if you're going second and your opponent can get to you and table you, you can, like, there's not a lot on the board if all your 6 scary units are up in the sky waiting to drop down.
I like to think that the fear is caused by the Thousand Suns coming in and doing the David Blaine on one leg but look like he's floating trick. And all the other Marines are like, what is going on? How is he doing that? And just bolting, mate.
Right, so just one sec. Right. So for everyone at home, this is the trick that Connor is referencing, where he's levitating across the ground. I tell you, the people in the video don't look terrified, Connor, and I think that's maybe why this Rite of War doesn't work too well.
Yeah, but we're obviously more knowledgeable, but that's what it is, yeah. They appear and they're all doing that simultaneously.
Right. It doesn't quite work in the same way that David Blaine.
It did in 1.0.
Yeah.
In 1.0, I love this with my Thousand Suns. They're amazing.
Yeah, but sadly, being off the board for a third of the game isn't brilliant. So, Sons of Horus, James. Sons of Horus.
All right, this is page 283, Maximus.
Excellent. So we've got the Black Grieving, where models with the Legion of Astartes Sons of Horus rule taken as part of the attachment, using this Rite of War, gain Rage 2 when they successfully charge an enemy unit which is already locked in combat with one or more units, or an enemy unit that is the target of at least one more charge. So Rage 2 if 2 units charge an enemy unit.
Hang on. Well, there's a bit there that I did. Yeah, you just declare a charge for something and something else.
Successful.
So you have your attack squad multi-charging stuff, and then your actual units charging successfully.
Things.
Yeah, which then
you get Rage 2.
It goes away a bit to mitigate that, like, sort of hold the line reaction that stops Sons of Horus having their Legion rule. Doing that multi-charge does, and it also then gets you the benefit of this Rage 2. Reaver attack squads can be taken as troops and gain line. Just staring, using this Rite of War, gain Deep Strike.
Hang on a minute.
Go on.
I remember in all our chats, all the Traitor players complaining, none of our stuff gets line with our Rites of War, and we've just gone through like 4, and they've been like, this gets line. Rampage squads get line. This gets...
You know what? True. And I've fallen afoul of that myself, that like no traitor things get line. I didn't know the Reavers did actually. I've been using them when I borrowed them off Phil without line. But yeah, it's not a bad point, James. Not a bad point.
Anyway, just there and getting deep strikes, pretty nice.
Yeah, you've got to take a Master of Signals in addition to the Praetor or character who allows you to use Rite of War. And you've got to have more fast attack than heavy support choices, so you're capped at 2 heavy supports if you're taking 3 fast.
Yeah, and you have to have 1 fast attack, even if you've got no heavy support.
Yeah. What can we say about this, guys? Like, Sons of Horus, not the best at the moment, or at least I'm not...
They're all right. Like, I'm not a fan of Deep Strike. We've been over this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed on the video. I'm not a fan of Deep Strike, but you usually mitigate that by taking a Master Signal, which this says you have to do anyway. So that's not really a limitation, because you're probably doing that anyway if you're just there and are in Deep Strike.
Yeah.
If they're not, that Master of Signal is in the last cannon squad you're allowed to take to give them night vision. So that's all right. Just there and annoying in combat. So dropping them in. I think I played Luke with this at Warm World, and I played Rob Higgins another time who used this. And they were just irritating to shift, man. Like the Chosen Warriors.
Well, any weapon skill 5 Terminators, right? They're just very good, and they can be taken in a big unit.
Most. all by one.
Glossing over that.
I didn't say which ones.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
Well,
Reavers are very expensive. Yeah, I know you were. I know you were. Reavers are very, very expensive for what they are. They come with like chain axes for 25 points or something like that a model.
They're just too pricey, aren't they? Other than that, they're all right. They're just too pricey.
Yeah, like they're 3-up save. Their Legion rule would make them good for not being doubled out. If you can multi-charge a unit and they go in second, so they can't be held the line against, they're all right, but they're just very pricey for what they're doing. Like it's 10 points of power.
Better despoiler squad. They're a better despoiler squad. So they're in this Rite of War. You take them instead of despoilers. They've got weapon skill 5, 2 wounds, 2 attacks, precision shots and strikes, which can't be understated.
And then rage on this as well.
Rage from this. That's a lot of dice to chuck at things.
It is. It's just getting to a round. And this is off the top of my head. I know we did a points comparison last video with Templars against something, but these are getting for like 400 points for a unit.
Yeah, 22 points a model after the first 5.
Yeah, and that's before you give them a power weapon or anything. So it's 32 points a model with a power weapon. So it becomes very expensive for a model with a 3-up save.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can still see it work. Like if they're your line squads, like you still get some decent work out of them.
Yeah,
like weapon skill 5 isn't anything to be sniffed at in this edition.
It's the one that I've been going to when I've been using Sons of Horus, and I've enjoyed using it for those Reavers as troops. It's an enjoyable like little trick to pull off the multi-charge so that you can't be held, and then you do get your bonus as a Legion. So it sort of ties nicely along with that Legion trait, or I suppose it ties nicely alongside the downside of that Legion trait. So it's encouraging you to get round the downsides of it. Yeah, I like it as a Rite of War. I just don't like the Reavers being so pricey.
Yeah, I think it's a decent Rite of War. Just the setback is actually within the unit you have to choose and its price rather than the Rite of War by itself. So the Rite of War's all right. I mean, you're not going to be, you're not going to be smashing opponents' back doors in with it, but I reckon generally you're going to have good games with this Rite of War, if that makes sense, because you won't be a pushover.
What do we think about the fast attack versus heavy support playoff? Like, do we think that's like how big of a downside do we think that is? Because I like some fast attack choices. I don't think they're the most competitive ever. Like, I just happen to like them.
Your cheap win would be a Xiphon, but having to have 2 fast attack choices to have that heavy support choice is quite a tax, actually.
Is there anything that they? I mean, I don't know, and I'm asking. So, is there anything specifically that they have that fits into fast attack?
Maybe bikes, or I know Phil.
No, I wondered if there was any Legion specific units that they have that fit into a fast attack.
No,
makes it more viable.
Elites for your Reavers, but they're now troops. Just they're now troops.
Elites.
So you'd be looking at like a couple of speeders, maybe, to cheap options to get.
Well, hang on. Here's the other thing. I suppose you're losing your benefit, aren't you? It says when they're taken as troops choices. Don't have to be.
Yeah,
I mean, they're elites normally, so they're not even fast attack. Normally.
Oh, are they not? Are they not? No. Oh, I thought someone said they were Reavers. Okay, ignore me then. Ignore me.
No, so it's it's a downside, isn't it? It's a
yeah. Ignore everything I've just said. Sure.
Generally do.
Oh, James got there first. So, right, into the
this
long
next
march.
One.
Yeah.
This
didn't realise we were lying to each other now, but fine.
Always. So, the long march, units made up entirely of Sons of Horus, which are infantry or dreadnought type, that part of the detachment gain +1 movement characteristic in the movement phase. Only when moving normally, not when running, and no bonus to charge distances. Cataphracti Terminator squads, Legion Tartarus Terminator squads, just staring, may be taken as non-compulsory troops choices. Any Cataphracti Terminator squads, Legion Tartarus Terminators, just staring, gain the outflank special rule. A detachment,
the ones that are selected as troops gain out.
Yeah. Sorry, but surely you're selecting them all as troops. A detachment with this right of war must have the Traitor allegiance, and a detachment with this right of war may not include any models with the heavy unit subtype unless they enter play from reserves or begin the battle embarked upon a model with the transport type.
This is actually pretty decent. Like your dreadnoughts being faster, we all know dreadnoughts are probably the strongest unit after las cannons in this edition. Dreadnoughts being an inch faster is nothing to turn your nose up. You just Aarons, if they're not deep striking, they're probably in a Land Raider or a Spartan anyway. So that mitigates your only downside. You don't get a las cannon squad, I guess, is a bit of a pain, but you've got dreadnoughts that move faster. I can live with that.
And I've probably got las cannons on some if that's what you really want them to have. I'm not saying that's the right way of doing it, just saying.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
But
it's not. But my point is if, you know, if that's what people want to do.
If you're already taking that transport, all it is really is upsides.
Yeah.
It's in the same way as Hammer of Olympia. Like, he's just I can throw this on. If you happen to have a transport for you just airing, great, everything's +1 move. I don't think the benefits can be as if you manage to pull off a load of Rage 2s across the game, that could have, I think, a much bigger benefit. But to just have flat +1 move is just going to always be there. I'll say that. I started this sentence saying, the Rage 2 could go off a lot and that'd be really good. But yeah, to just always have +1 move, it's just a bit of a shame it's not on the charge distances and doesn't affect runs.
Yeah.
You're a bit swifter. It's all right. If we're going back to the, rating in terms of numbers, then it's a sidestep, isn't it? It's better than not having it.
Yeah. It's just a bit better than
it's just a bit better than nothing, but it's not. It's just not making Phil happy at the end of the day.
No, well, he says something that he's been playing his mech for the past year. He's the outflank. I think we've covered enough from all the other rights of war that give outflank, and there's nothing wrong with making squads non-compulsory troops.
Yeah.
Onto word bearers. Yeah. So word bearers rights of war, you get the Dark Brethren. So at the start of the battle, after both players are deployed, the Word Bearers player selects an enemy unit to be the sacrifice unit. If you kill that sacrifice unit at the end of the turn, or after you've killed it, whatever, you gain a weapon skill.
As soon as you've killed it.
As soon as you killed it, you gain a strength, a weapon skill, and an attack. Oh, and movement. Strength, movement, weapon skill, attack, all go up by 1. Now, you can do that up to 3 times on a single unit, but it doesn't affect any characters or independent characters that you put in the unit. If you don't inflict any wounds to the sacrifice unit, a random unit in your army suffers perils. And if you do 1 wound, or 1 or more wounds, you're fine, so long as you do a wound to it. Basically.
It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good. It
can buff Lorgar from 6 weapon skill 6 to 9, and attacks 6 to 9.
I tell you why it's good, James. Just from playing it, it might not be as good as other things, but the units that you pick. So the first thing you go, I'm going to kill that Rhino. Cool. Right. Straight away, my Val Gorback or whatever. Rhino's dead. Val Gorback. Cool. They've all got an additional move, additional attack, and immediately after, you get to pick another unit as your sacrifice thing.
So I get that. So after deployment is all right. But if you're going second as the Word Bearers player and you go, I'm going to kill that Rhino, I'll be like, cool, that Rhino's now behind a building. Mm. And you're taking perils for 4 turns.
If I don't cause any wound on it.
Yeah, so it's behind a building out of line of sight.
It's going to be there the whole game, though.
It's a Rhino, though, mate. It's
not without its perils, 35%. James.
No,
it's not without its perils, but it's the buffs that it can give to units.
If you get it off, it's good, yeah. But you're at a risk. This again puts you in the hands of your opponent. So if you're playing a competitive opponent and you're picking an easy-to-kill unit, a tactical squad that you're thinking you're going to last cannon off, a Rhino. If you go first, job's a good one. You might kill it, pick another unit. You've got 1 buff off. If you're doing this against me and I'm going first and you're going, I'm going to kill your Rhino, that Rhino's taking no part in the game whatsoever. It's hiding behind a building and you're taking perils for 4 turns.
In that sense, you are. But okay, they might not say that though. They might turn around and go, "Do you know what? It's going to be your Dark Fury squad, which you're not going to hide behind a building the whole time, and all they've got to do is take a wound."
Yeah, and then they don't take perils.
Yeah, and they don't take perils. I'm just saying, isn't it? It's after deployment as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I'm going second, you've already deployed.
You better.
So I just pick something out in the open that you're not going to be able to hide easily, or is going to be around. I know you
get that, but it
is
in the hands. So if you go, I'm picking that Dark Fury unit, I'll just jump all my characters into the other Dark Fury unit and chuck forward, and that one suddenly becomes more cagey to use. So you're going to focus into that one, and the other one's just going to run around having fun because you have to focus on that other unit. It's just putting power in your opponent's hands with a slight downside. Like perils isn't a massive issue now. It's what?
No, it's not.
D3 wounds spread across the squad.
It's not a massive issue, but I wouldn't say it's like God's gift to Rite of War by any means, because I don't like Rite of War where you give your opponent the power to influence your own Rite of War. Even the Raven Guard one, where I get more points for killing your Warlord, that's not as good as it sounds because I've given you the power to stop me getting those victory points.
I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying it's God's gift, but I do think it's very good. And I suppose I'm kind of going off of the experience of, I mean, I've only played against it once, and it's a slightly different scenario. I've not got as quick units that I can move around in, or in the force that I use. I didn't anyway. And with the way the mission was set up, it was like open terrain, pretty more or less. So it's not as easy as just hiding away. But I think by turn 3, the geezer I'd played just died. I can't even remember what he put it on, but it got to a point where he was just going, this unit can have it, because he can upgrade what he had even more and things.
I don't
like
get
that.
how it's doing, unless I'm reading this wrong. I don't get how you're killing that many units to get so many buffs. Like I've played against this, and I'm pretty sure we did it wrong. So James, apologies. But
you tend to pick something that they're not going to hide, or that most people won't hide, Like, I know you're approaching it from the standpoint you just put it back there. Which do you know what I fully believe?
Yeah, you pick my last cannon squad, and then I don't really want to hide my last cannon squad, so you'll be doing a wound against it.
Yeah.
But you have to kill it to get the buff.
Yeah, but
and like killing a unit isn't overly easy in this edition. You have to put a lot of firepower into things to kill a unit from range.
But if you pick something you want to kill anyway, I've seen it used a lot of times, like with the Rhino method that Connor's talking about. Like, you pick something that you know you're going to kill, or at least you've got like a good chance of killing.
Yeah.
And like turn 3, largely as Connor's saying, like I've seen it just.
Oh yeah, sure. So you've got a buff. Like it's better than not having a Rite of War.
What, 10? Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it's a very good one. Actually, I don't think it's on like the top tier of them.
Like if you're playing for like if you're playing a 4-turn game, you'll get 4 buffs off at most. At least you potentially not going to get any off. And there's no making things troops. It's literally all into this. I need to kill that unit to get a buff, and as soon as that ability is taken out of your hands, you've not got a Rite of War really. Like you're going to tunnel to try and kill that one thing, and I'll just be like, well, pick my Dark Fury unit. That unit doesn't die very often unless it gets a full army shooting into it.
You're not
pick a last cannon unit.
Right, but yeah, I get what you're saying. But
Word Bearers are generally a combat-based army because they want to use their Golvar back. They want to use their Tainted Dreadnoughts. So that's like turn 2 before you're getting into where most of your army is effective anyway.
It is. They've got those like warp fire throwers and stuff. Like, and they take the last cannon squads just like everyone else does.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I do see.
But if they go first, they'll probably kill the thing they pick. Don't get me wrong. So you're getting that buff off. But if they go in second, I'd be loath to hide my last cannon squad. If it's not necessarily, I'm not going to hide my last cannon squad. If it stops you buffing low, if I think you're going to chain through things, I might just move my last cannon squad out of line of sight and just play 275 points down for the game. I don't know. It's a consideration. That's all I'm saying. It takes it out of your hands, and it's all focused on this buff. The other Rite of War that we're getting onto next, I think, is a lot better.
Right. So yeah, let's go on to the Serrated Sun then. So the Serrated Sun, Gal Vorback squads can be taken as troops using this Rite of War. All Gal Vorback in the detachment may select Dreadclaw drop pods. I was like thrown out by the Legion Dreadclaw drop pods then. Any unit composed entirely of models with the infantry unit type and access to a Rhino can also select a Legion drop pod as a dedicated. A detachment using this Rite of War may not include any units with a movement characteristic of 0.
Oh, never mind. It's rubbish then. It's rubbish. Yeah, I rephrase. No tarantulas. We're not having it.
May not be used by an allied detachment and have got to be traitors. None of which really are limitations, I wouldn't say, or that big of limitations. So Gal Vorback, very good in this.
Gal Vorback, tasty. Yeah. Argyltal makes them even better.
Especially when you can give them additional upgrades by killing a unit. No, I agree with you. They are very good. Do you know what? I've always liked Gal Vorback anyway. I think they're a really cool unit, even from Heresy 1. They're cool. And let's be honest, Argyltal, even in the books, he's ace, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He's such a great character. Such a great character.
Are you judging this based on fluff, Connor?
When it comes to Argyltal, yeah, because I just think he's the bollocks. Like, he's just cool. He's just so cool.
No, I agree. Excellently written character in the Heresy. I prefer the Dark Brethren to this, personally. But
fair.
Fair, but you're wrong. Fair, but you're wrong.
No. Like, if someone in the comments wants to tell me that I'm completely wrong, and I've missed, because it's a big paragraph, and I'm just going off like the paraphrasing we've done, because I cannot process that at this point.
I think they're both. I do think they're both good. I love the Gal Vorback. I think the Dark Brethren one is, it is very good. Appreciate what James is saying. I do get what he's saying. I think in a lot of senses that, like, I don't know, your everyday pickup, not everyone's going to do that, and it's really dependent. And I think the other thing, just to add with it, is that once things are getting powered up, like you said, they're in combat, they're probably more likely to kill things. In this other one, the more Valgor back, the better, surely. You know, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, like there's no
it's cool.
There's no downside to this Rite of War if you want to take Galvor back, take them as troops. More slots for Contemptors in Elites. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
another 2 good Rite of Wars, I think, for the Legion. Not necessarily the top, but they're decent.
Yeah. So on to Alpha Legion, which is the final Legion. So we've got Coils of the Hydra. May include up to 3 units as part of Rewards of Treachery rather than the usual 1. All units selected in a detachment using this Rite of War by means of Rewards of Treachery gain Fearless until at least one other unit enters the battlefield. All units using Rite of War without Rewards of Treachery gain +1 to hit rolls made for them in all attacks, both shooting and melee, in a turn in which they deploy to the battlefield. So basically, like your Alpha Legion standards, gain +1 to their hit rolls. Limitations: all units selected in a detachment using this Rite of War by means of Rewards of Treachery must be deployed on the battlefield and may not be deployed in alternate means of deployment. A detachment using this Rite of War must include a number of units selected without Rewards of Treason, and they've got to start on the table. Sorry, off the table. So that your non-rewards units have got to be off the table, and they can use any deployment method they want. I think to start with 3 units on the table is pretty crippling regardless of what they are.
Yeah.
And then your other units...
It suffers from the reserves thing.
Yeah, it's just like the split thing over again. Like, I don't see everyone was using this to get the rewards unit in First Ed, and because you've got that in your main, like, just Alpha Legion rules, I don't really see anyone using it anymore. Like it's pretty crippling.
What 3, like, Caesarian?
Are you not going to go with triple Dart Furies?
No. Because you lose
Caesarian Fire Drakes, just to be fun.
Yeah. Like,
no, Fulminatarus, come on.
No. No. Yeah, fight like scary Terminator units that might not be shifted, but like you want the Fearless, you only get the Fearless until stuff comes in from reserve. So it's like there.
And it doesn't allow you to evade if you've got Fearless.
Yeah.
So it suffers from that. Do you know what we said about
like
Angels?
Yeah, like you said, Max, I'd probably just take the 1 unit you get base and not have to jump through these hoops and not have an army for a bit of the game.
Shall we go on?
Spend loads of money on different Legions units. If you know what I mean.
Is this the Rich Adams Rite of War? Because he's got every single Legion and it allows him to use all these special units.
It is. Well, there is a Rite of War that you could use as Alpha Legion, James, just in case you didn't know, that you could use that Rewards of Treason unit. Just one of them, though. And you could use it really successfully. And that is Headhunter Leviathan. So, I think you might be slightly clued into what it is, actually, judging by the look of the face. It's Headhunter kill teams can be taken as troops and fast attack choices. Slay the Warlord gains you additional +2 victory points, so long as it's already a secondary objective. During the first game turn, all units comprised entirely of models with infantry and Alpha Legion gain a Shrouded 5+ when you're at least 12 inches away from any enemy unit, and you're going to be 2 inches further than you actually are because you're Alpha Legion.
Yeah, which is tasty.
So you actually only need to be 10 inches away from them. All models with the vehicle unit type must begin playing reserves or just stay in your case because everyone uses infantry all the time. And a detachment using this Rite of War must include more fast than heavy support choices. So it has that like Sons of Horus downside that we were saying before about the Black Reaving, but in this one it wouldn't stop me from taking this Rite of War.
Or you're just taking your Headhunters as your fast choices anyway, because they can go as troops, but
Headhunters are possibly one of the best units in the game. I know they don't have light, but they are scary.
Yeah. What is it? Precision Strike 4?
Yeah, Precision Strike 4 plus BS 5, preferred enemy independent characters. So you're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. Give them, all combi melters. This is what fragged Chris's Ferrous Star.
Whoa.
No, this is what fragged Chris. So Hugh took this and fragged Ferrous.
All combi melters, James. You take a multi-melter because they've got Relentless.
Yeah, multi-melter, and then you take melter.
Yeah.
Pick your target and frag it.
Yeah, and I think if you're using this Rite of War turn 1, unless it's like a Primarch, which you like all your squads are going to go into the Primarch, but if you take in 3 fast with Headhunters, well, you just kill all 3 of their HQ choices on turn 1. And you've already gained 3 victory points for the Slay. And you're in a pretty good position, even if you lose all of your Headhunter
even
slots.
if you've got a Primarch.
You go to the bar while your opponent packs up.
Even if they've got a Primarch, you just go precision shots 4+, this many melters hit. I'm wounding on 2s because you're in a unit that isn't toughness 6. Or toughness 8, sorry. Because you're going to be in a Marine unit. And then I'm just going to put all of these wounds on your Primarch that you have to roll saves for. But even with a 3-up invuln, 3 squads of Headhunters will kill a Primarch.
So what I was meaning is you're not going to kill all 3, or you're less likely to kill all of the HQ choices if there's a Primarch.
You don't need to.
But you
don't need to. You just kill the Primarch, get your VPs for slaying the Warlord, because it's a Primarch and it has to be the Warlord.
And you laugh as well, because you've already
killed the
destroyed.
Yeah.
You've destroyed their 500 whatever point unit. That's
Korrak's dead before he does anything. I'd be so upset. Yeah.
Do you know what? I've been feeling bad enough taking a unit of Seekers with 3 combi melters because
they're better than more death than these things. Like more death than are nice, but these are better.
Yeah.
Like I say, fair enough. Once you're done with your Alpha Strike, they might die.
Yeah, but you know what
you've killed a Primarch. It's like cool.
You know what you do as well, Jake? Just take more Deathford as your treasure unit just for giggles as well.
Yeah. Excellent Rite of War. Yeah.
It's awesome Rite of War.
It's really good. It is very good based around the unit that it's allowing you to take in addition.
You don't even have to be
5-up
Shrouded is excellent.
Shrouded is awesome.
Like it's like having
would it gain 1 if you use night fighting as well?
No, you get the you get the -1 to hit them for them.
Right, okay.
And it stacks a bit. Like Alpha Legion rules stack a bit with night fighting anyway. Because
you don't need to be traitors for this. Like you don't need to be traitors. It's not a traitor Rite of War. Neither of them are. So you go Recon Company to reroll, go first and seize. Calidus Assassin, because I'm loyalist Alpha Legion. Lol. It's just horrendous. I think Alpharius isn't a traitor.
No, I think he's not locked. He's the only Primarch that's not
so
locked.
You can take him as your loyalist. You still got your own Primarch. He's not bad.
Yeah. Well, you also, in the Rites of War, so not in the Rites of War, in the Warlord traits, I believe, get +1 to hit another Astartes Legion that you pick at the start of the game.
Yeah.
Or something like
Hydron Excursor.
Yeah, that one. And it just all stacks together with their rules and then just culminates in this Rite of War. That I think is
and then you
pinnacle.
take two Exodus, and because you can take Exodus twice, and he's got a brutal 2 sniper rifle that's AP2, and he just goes ping ping, and the other one then goes ping ping.
Can I just make a observation? We've gone through these Rites of Wars, obviously the same as we did the Loyalist ones. Now, when we went through the Loyalist ones, there was 2, 3 that we felt probably stood out. I think there's a lot more traitor than Rite of Wars that stand out massively.
Like
in comparison,
this one is your comparison to Decap Strike. This one is so much better than Decap Strike because of the units in the Alpha Legion army.
Now, before Max starts going, well, loyalists. I have no doubt that some of the loyalists' units are potentially slightly better, but in terms of the Rites of Wars, we have sat here and said. We've sat here and said in a good 4 or 5 that these are very good, and we did not do that in the Loyalist.
The reason I was opening my mouth was to not disagree with you. I was counting the numbers of Rites of War we'd said were really good in this one compared to the other one, and you're not wrong. Like it's about the same. Like as we've gone through, you're right. Like the actual Rites of War, if we just taking the Rites of War in isolation...
Oh, yeah, in isolation.
They are arguably just as good for the traitors as there are for the loyalists. And James was right when he pointed out, actually, there's been quite a few that give line to those special units.
Yeah.
Massive shock horror bombshell ending.
Like my Raven Guard don't get line on their stuff. Like I chuck a Herald in thanks to Chris, and that gives me line. Like my Rite of Wars don't give me line. I know like Stone Gauntlet gives you line on your Phalanx Warders, but it's not that.
We can't, I suppose, compare everything to Stone Gauntlet all the time.
No, but that is what happens with the
that is what happens.
That is what happens. But you are right. You should.
Yeah, like it's evenly matched, really, isn't it?
I would say there's four Rites of War in these traitors that I've seen where I've gone like, yeah, do you know what? That's nasty.
So we've got this one. We've got the Reaping. We've got Terror Assault.
I mean, to be fair, this one does suffer from the putting the victory points into your opponent's hand. Like, I can hide my Warlord.
Yeah.
But then
it's just additional victory points, though. So you're right in that sense, but it's...
I suppose you can, but they've got a few things that mitigate that on the Alpha Legion side. So you've got the fact that you're infiltrating the Headhunters scouting. You've also got, if you don't want to go with that Ex Indio Legio or whatever it's called, there's a redeploy your units Warlord trait. So if you don't get first turn, or your opponent seizes, you just go, okay, I redeploy all my units that I put in a bad position if I'm going second.
Yeah.
Do you know, so they've got things to mitigate even the downsides that you might suffer from as a Raven Guard player doing a decap strike.
And Exodus is better than Katie's Next, so... He's not. Katie's Next is a bit.
He couldn't even keep it up for a second. So...
We can take 2 of him, so 2 Exodus is better than 1 Katie's Next.
Well, that is true. And I think we'll close it out there, guys. So thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to do all the YouTubey stuff like liking, subscribing and commenting. What did we get wrong? I think
Nothing.
Let us know in the comments. And basically let anyone know that what we've missed out is really helpful to leave in the comments so that other people can see it, essentially. Because there inevitably will be something that we've got wrong. Like
we all said before we started, we do read them, and we do take it all on board. And like, you know, Max wants to try and make the channel as best as possible, and a lot of that is involved around your input as well. So understanding what you like to see and what you don't like to see, you know, and we do read it and take it on board. And sometimes we disagree and we comment back.
we do comment back.
Apparently people want me to paint a Battlefleet Gothic army.
You do. They do, James. They do.
Yeah.
So James is going to get busy painting his Battlefleet Gothic army. And in the meantime, have a good one. In a bit.
Ciao.
See you.